This is an interesting. I said, Carmen, I was sued on a credit card debt and my wages were garnished to satisfy the judgment. So that's something I want to talk about first. Then I filed for bankruptcy. After I filed bankruptcy, my wages were continued to be garnished. Can they do that? The answer is no. No. Let's talk about first what happens when you get sued on a credit card debt. And this is very important because everybody's got to understand that you may not want to deal with the lawsuit, but if you don't deal with the lawsuit, they're going to get a judgment. Judgment is a piece of paper that the judge signs saying, you, Mr. Debtor or Mr. Defendant, owe Visa card $5,000. I've made findings of fact, and the fact is you breached the contract, here's what they proved, you owe the money. Now that judgment in and of itself is not that bad. When they file that judgment in the public records, it could become a lien on your non-homestead property, or, and this is more likely, the creditor is going to take some action to execute on the judgment. That could be in the form of a garnishment. Now, if you're getting garnished, you have the right to defend yourself and say, hey, you can't garnish me because X, Y, Z. Number one, I'm on Social Security. You can't touch my Social Security. Judge will say you're right. Number two, I'm head of household. You can't touch my wages. I never agreed to be garnished. Judge will say, yeah, if you can prove it, you're right. So you've got to look at the exemptions or the exclusions from garnishment, and then you've got to make your case. Now what happens? They garnish. So you file bankruptcy. Now bankruptcy puts an automatic stay on pretty much everything. There's some exclusions from the automatic stay, but in a situation like this, these things need to stop immediately. And it's incumbent upon the plaintiff's attorney who's garnishing to stop the garnishment as quickly as possible. And if money was garnished post-bankruptcy, meaning after the day you filed, that money's got to come back as soon as possible because the defiling of a bankruptcy creates an automatic stay and it stops any collection activity right then and there in this case. Now what happens? If it doesn't and it continues, I'm going to send one request saying stop it immediately. If you choose not to, I'm going to wind up suing you in the bankruptcy court. And normally it's creditors who just drop the ball. But you got to understand, my clients need that money to survive, or they need it to pay their bankruptcy trustee, or they need to feed their family. So what happens is, if they don't stop that, I'm going into court, I'm going to sue that creditor for violating a federal court order. And that's a problem. And I want damages, and I want my attorney's fees paid, because this did not have to happen. The garnishment could have been stopped. So that's the appropriate way to deal with it. And this way, if the bankruptcy judge says to me, well, Mr. Dellutri, what did you try to do to stop it? Well, Judge, I contacted him, I sent him a letter. Maybe that's not enough.